What's going on, everybody? This is Jess with the R2 Performance Center podcast here on Fort Polk. Although we have an actual name for said podcast. Morgan, would you like to reveal the name of our podcast?
Sure, Jess.
Thank you.
The name of our podcast is, drumroll please. Thank you very much. Divide and Conquer.
Yes, we think that it is a good name that wraps up our intent of why we are doing this podcast in the first place. We are all probably divided on some sort of common theme, topic, discussion, and though we are going to conquer that theme, question, discussion, and so divide and conquer we've landed on. If you hate that name, feel free to respond to us in any form that you feel worthy.
With a suggestion.
Yeah,
with a better
please.
new name.
Don't
Please
just bash us.
Don't just berate us,
Yeah, don't
please.
just berate us.
We're humans, too.
Kind of like the wise words of people. Don't just come with a problem. Come with a solution. So come with that solution. We probably will not change it now that we've posted it, but we are open to other suggestions.
Disclaimer.
And we're not too egotistical to say we can't change it. Or narcissistic. Anyway. So welcome. We are excited to be here today. This is number 2 in the lineup. If you've missed our first iteration of Divide and Conquer, please go back and listen to that. It would make more sense of who we are and why we are here. Is that right, Diego?
That is correct.
Cool. Also, something that we failed to mention on session 1 is that we have other coworkers and colleagues who may join the podcast in the future.
My bad.
It's okay. It's not Diego's fault. We just were so excited to talk about what we were talking about that we just failed to mention our friends and colleagues. So those colleagues would be Morgan. Who are they?
Well, Jess, some of our other performance experts here on Post are Marius.
Alexa.
Alexa?
Yes.
Sorry. He's the newest addition to our team. We have Eric, Ruthia, and Mary Wood.
So it's not just us 3 here over at R2. We have plenty of us. So please come visit, stop by, leave a message. We're going to get into our topic for the day. Well, first, actually, let's just hear, what are you looking forward to for the rest of the week? What's something exciting that you're looking forward to? Diego?
As of this recording, tomorrow is someone's birthday.
Heyo.
Y'all are horrible.
So tomorrow is Morgan's birthday.
I think she's turning, 63?
That's accurate. In spirit.
In spirit.
Okay.
But no, you can go visit the Facebook page and see her actual picture and know that she's not 63.
How can people find that Facebook page, Jess?
I think if you pull up the Google and you type in R2 Performance Center Fort Polk, it should be tip-top right there for you to just click on that Facebook page. So Diego is looking forward to Morgan's birthday. I equally am looking forward to Morgan's birthday. Morgan,
Well, I'm looking forward to golfing on Saturday.
is that your birthday present? Like, treat to yourself?
No. I don't. What am I looking?
I hope you have the round of your
Shucks.
life. Like, I hope you shoot par. Yeah.
Considering,
Competitors.
I consider good golf right now for me. I've only been playing for like 6 months for all of you out there listening. I consider good golf to be when I hit the ball in the air and straight. I don't really care how far it goes, as long as it's in the air and straight. That's all we're going for right now.
Hey, goals are goals, and it seems like you're actually achieving most of the goals that you're setting out during a round of golf. It's straight. You're hitting it in the air.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Done.
Making progress.
I'm a golfer. Kind of. Not really. But it's fine.
Hashtag golf goals.
Golf goals. All right. So our question for the day, we'll get just right into it. And because it's Morgan's birthday, she's going to lead us off on answering this question.
Surprise!
Surprise, Morgan. Yay!
Ah.
She's so excited over here. She just threw confetti. Question of the day is, of all of the fictional characters you've seen on TV, read about, heard other people talk about, who would you say is the most mentally tough? And then why would you say that? What lets you know that they're in fact mentally tough?
So, I'm a big fan of Camelot, to be honest. I enjoy reading about King Arthur and kind of the legend of Camelot and Merlin. One of my favorite variations of the story, though, is from the BBC, the TV show Merlin, that they came out with, I think, in 2005 to 2012 range. Don't quote me on that, though.
Quoter.
Quoted. But that variation of Merlin, I think the character is played by Colin Morgan.
Is it because of the name?
Is that why you
Morgan?
like this
Is
iteration
is
so
this-
much?
No.
Okay.
No.
Just curious.
I just
didn't know
It's
where you were
worth
going with
asking.
this.
it's just a phenomenal series, so it's on Netflix if you're interested. Besides the point, he's the most mentally tough to me because of... So, Camelot is in a place where you're not allowed to display magic and you're executed if you have magic. So, he is brought to the heart of this place where you're not allowed to be yourself, and yet he finds a way to meet his purpose, which is coming alongside Arthur as he's brought up into becoming the king of Camelot, and still be his truest, authentic self, so the best of who he is. He's faced with a lot of challenge, a lot of friends. So Morgana Le Fay, the notable evil sorceress. Yeah, Morgana, I hear you. It's fine. But evil sorceresses, like, his best friends are changing, but he still sees the good in people regardless of the environment around him, and then he just overcomes all of that while growing and thriving into the best version of himself, meeting the purpose of his existence. And so it's just, to me, mentally tough in the way that he is thriving in unfavorable conditions and being his truest self.
Would you say that he would have actually gotten to be the best version of himself without going through all of those obstacles and hardship, or no?
Ooh.
I don't know much about
Yeah, that's
Camelot
fine. That's okay.
and
Well,
Merlin, but
but
even
it's on
worse. That's
Netflix.
even
It's on
worse.
Netflix, so you can go watch it and we can talk about it, or we can binge watch it together,
like a family.
like a family. I think the need for him to go through that environment was critical to his development because it allowed him to recognize the special qualities in the people around him. So rather than claiming victory for himself, it almost fostered a sense of humility that was integral to his character. So I think he needed that environment.
So I think a lot of the interesting thing and intrigue around resilience is, do I need to go through hardship to get better and to be, in fact, resilient? But also, I don't want to go through hard things, because who wants to go through those hard things? But if you know on the other end, it can be because I could get a lot better. It's that weird balance of putting yourself in the right positions, but also knowing that you can come out on the other side better.
Yeah.
Taking calculated risks, right?
Whoa! Yes! That's a perfect way of
But
saying it.
to what you're saying, like, resilience is not just kind of overcoming the darkness, but also seeing the light in all moments, so that balanced perspective. And one of his signature displays of magic is, like, the small, beautiful fire. He, like, will create dragons of fire, will do birds or butterflies, just display small, beautiful magic. But this is someone who is capable of... He's the most powerful sorcerer of all of the world of Camelot. I feel really nerdy right now.
When you said small things
It's
of
okay.
fire, like beautiful fire, I imagined someone making balloon animals,
It's kind of,
but with fire.
but yeah.
Magic, fire, balloon, animals.
Yes.
We tied
But-
that back to see how we tie that in.
Yeah.
I don't know how it all ties, but
I just think that he's a character that is extremely mentally tough
cool.
and resilient.
I
Thank you, Morgan.
That, yeah.
I need you to top that, Diego. Who you got?
So, regardless of how you feel about Game of Thrones, the show, not the books, I want to make that distinction early on. I've yet to read the books. That's on me. But I've seen the show. You know, I have certain opinions about it, but we'll keep that to the side for now. However, I do think if we're talking about mentally resilient characters, I think Arya Stark has to be somewhere on that list. Granted, I think cases could be made for other individuals, but namely Tyrion.
Y'all, this is, while we're supposed to be divided and conquering a question, we are going to agree on this very answer.
I'll be the
No,
divide here.
it's written in my notes right here. I have Arya Stark too, but I also mentioned two other characters that could be talked about. Which is Tyrion would be one, and then Brienne of Tarth would be the other one.
Yeah, Brienne, you can make a pretty good case for her, too. Much to Morgan's dismay, I'm going to keep talking about Arya.
Sorry. It's 2-1 on this one.
Yeah. So, hashtag spoilers.
Oh, yes. I also have some spoilers.
So if you haven't seen it, it's been out for a year. Come on. Anyway.
Years.
It's been 1 year since the last,
but like
episode.
the beginning.
But yeah,
yes,
it started a while ago.
And COVID's been going on, so you've had plenty of time.
Yeah.
True.
Arya, she starts off the show as a noble girl, right? She's born to the King of the North. She's, the second youngest child? Or third? I can't remember.
Second youngest.
Okay. She saw her father get beheaded.
It's in my notes. Keep going.
And
I'm just going to keep agreeing.
Yeah. Like, that in and of itself, A, not many people are put in that position, and B, I don't know if anyone could safely say they'd be able to live a somewhat functional life after witnessing something like that. Granted, some people would argue she did not lead a functional life, but it might be functional for her, considering everything she's gone through. So, not only did that happen, but at risk of being captured by her father's executioners, she posed as a common girl for those very people. So she, on a daily basis, was a servant for Tywin
Yes.
Lannister. Yeah. At this point, Tywin is at war with her brother, and she can't really do anything about it, even though she certainly is trying to. So it's like, not only does she murder or witness her father being murdered, but she has to live with those individuals at risk of being found out for her real identity, and then subsequently being murdered because they're trying to wipe out, all the people who are putting up a resistance against the Lannisters. That's like season 1 and 2. There's so much more that happens. She basically undergoes some of the worst training I've ever seen to be an assassin/mercenary. She's stabbed by her own trainer. But ultimately she comes back and rejoins what's left of her family. And giving credit to the rest of their family, too, they're all somewhat functional despite what happened to their parents, their older brother, despite the fact they hadn't seen each other in who knows how many years. And she's still able to connect with them, though it does take some time. There's got to be a whole lot of resilience at play right there in order to go back, even though it doesn't necessarily look like how it used to, because inevitably that's going to change. But she is no longer a recluse, and she went back to being a part of a family, even though it is not the exact same one she initially left. So that's basically what I got.
Yeah, and I'll add to that because legitimately I have the exact same character. And I even have an Arya Stark mug that I usually drink coffee out of every morning. So I'm a huge proponent and fan. And I'm sorry, Morgan, if you didn't like her. I didn't know this. So this whole time I've been drinking out of my mug, and it's been...
I just don't think she's the most resilient character.
Well, something to add. So, number 1, she was very young. At least when the story opens, she's very young, and it's very obvious that she doesn't quite fit in as a girl in her family, in the sense of she wanted to play with the boys. Like, she wanted to learn how to shoot a bow and arrow. She wanted to learn how to explore and fight, and her family wanted her to be in a dress and learning how to be a wife and learning all these things. And, like, that by itself, I think, is a very resilient quality of, I don't quite fit in, but how do I still try to go after this life that I'm looking to lead? And she found a way. Then ran into a bunch of obstacles. Mm-hmm. The beheading was like one of those things where I don't even know how I would respond to that. It's like, wow. And then to get wrapped up in everything that she did, but then also on the back end, she figured out a way to take revenge. So that's the part where I think, Diego, you were talking about, like, some people would say maybe she didn't live this life that was in fact productive or effective, but at the same time I think she still had this idea and these values of justice and a fair, balanced life, and the only way to do that would be to rid the realm of certain people to get back to, like, a balance. And she didn't want to be in power. She just wanted to make sure the right people were in power. So it was this really nice, she figured out a way, she equipped herself, she surrounded herself with the right people. She got, at the end, all of her goals that she wanted to achieve. And it wasn't just for her, it was for many people. So I think Arya, for sure, super resilient.
What about Sansa, though? I mean, if we're talking about the Stark family...
Also very resilient. I didn't want to like her. I really didn't want to think she was resilient. I didn't like her, but...
I didn't like her in the first couple
seasons.
Stuff. But
Joffrey, man. The things that me and my mom exchanged a lot of texts about him as we were watching the show.
So easy to hate.
Yeah.
That
by itself. That relationship alone.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then wasn't she betrothed to Ramsay as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
endured that. I just don't think Arya is the most resilient person. I hear what you're saying, like went through some crazy stuff, ended up coming back and fostering those connections, held true to some of her values and stuff, but I mean, there's an aspect of there was a significant amount of time where she completely shuts off all emotion.
Yeah.
And that's one of the myths that we talk about within resilience, is that it's not necessarily about no emotion. It's about regulating your emotion and controlling it. Yeah, go ahead.
But do you think out of that, so her training, especially with...
the Faceless Men?
Yes. I think you're right. Like, I think that was her initial go-to, was something very shut down. And then she realized, how can I recalibrate, because this isn't working for me? And I still have all these things I want to get done. So what is a better way to go about this? And then she sought other people and skills and mechanism strategies to figure out, okay, this isn't working for me, so let me figure out the best way to, like, get what I need out of life, but also make sure that she still worked through what she needed to. And for her, I think it worked. For everyone, I don't think that would have been the route.
I think what you're talking about is also a process of her finding out who she was.
Yes.
It might be the greater overall goal that she was trying to obtain. She went through all that during her formative years, and who knows how that shaped someone. So I see what you're saying, and I think that goes to show how I think you're kind of playing against your argument with that, to be honest. Because it's...
Shucks. I'll hear you out. Go ahead.
I'm not trying to belittle you or anything.
We are divided.
But
we will conquer.
Okay. I think there's plenty of characters you could talk about.
Truth.
Yeah, I mean, Game of Thrones is just full of mostly fleshed out characters in, like, a good way.
Wow.
Sorry, it's just...
The Boltons. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a myth that resilient people don't show emotion, right? So, obviously she wasn't resilient at that specific time, but she was able to overcome whatever feelings or thoughts she had that she felt necessary to shut down her emotions, which ultimately led her to being a more, whatever you want to call it, actualized, realized person, unique to her, right? So she's trying to find herself in the process. So I think all of that is a process that ultimately led her to becoming even more resilient.
Each character definitely had their own journey that you could
Make
argue.
cases, yeah.
Yeah.
Even though the characters that you don't like, you could still see not necessarily effective resilience, but they still went through a lot of hardships based on the fact that they were constantly at war and going through this power struggle. And
I think that's a good point. Resilience doesn't look one way. You can have multiple ways of experiencing resilience, being resilient, and then, yeah, good point. Fair point.
so maybe in the end we all actually agreed.
Ah,
How sweet.
Wow, I thought she was going to argue with me, but she just
I thought about it.
rolled right.
No words came into my head.
So I think, Diego, maybe you can wrap us up.
Sure. So again, you can find us on Facebook at the R2 Performance Center Fort Polk. So granted, that may be the place where you found our podcast, but it is still being hosted through YouTube. So, you know, for those individuals who find us through YouTube, that's where you can find all our regular updates, not only just podcasts, but also anything we share from the Army Resilience Directorate. And you can find them at Army Resilience on Facebook and Twitter. But we'll be posting a variety of things. One of the things to note is what we call mental minutes. So basically, we take a couple of slides, and we talk about a concept that we find interesting or might find particularly useful, especially within mandatory shutdown, stuff like that. And we expound on them for a little bit, and hopefully people who view them can learn not only about resilience and themselves, but also a bit about us. So with that, thank you all for listening to this week's podcast, and you can check us out in the next one.